Steve Garland, head wrestling coach at the University of Virginia, giving you my weekly Virginia wrestling newsletter. As most of you know, we just got back from Vegas and we're back to doing back to work, back to doing what we do. That's why I look like this. Just got out of the wrestling room, and we've got our guys have finals this week, but in between studying and finals, they're in here for open rooms, and so we're just kind of watching them, making sure that everything's going okay in there. So that's what's going on in tournament training perspective. But what everybody wants to hear about, I want to quickly give you my perspective on the Vegas tournament. George D. Camillo, to start it off, I was just reminded by a good friend of mine, Andy Fletterjohn, that George missed all of last year. How soon everybody forgets that George missed the entire season with an injury, and oh, by the way, he's in the semifinals of the best tournament in the country. He almost knocked off the number 2 seed from Minnesota, the number 1 ranked guy at the tournament, number 2 ranked guy in the country, Dardanes from Minnesota. And that match, if anybody saw it, there was kind of a controversial set of backs, and George came back and took him down and was tied with less than a minute to go, and he cut the kid to try to take him down to win it. So he was going for it. It was like going for it on 4th and 1 at the 2-yard line. I mean, he had to go for it, and he did, and he wasn't able to come up with the win, but he wrestled his tail off. I mean, Dardanes is a monster. He's a multiple-time All-American. He's a total stud, and George gave everything he could handle. So we were so proud of George, and just to get to the semis, George beat the 13th ranked guy in the country from Iowa State. I think it was 8-3 or 9-3. Looked amazing. Got 3 takedowns. Rode him. Just looked phenomenal against a really, really talented wrestler in Earl Hall from Iowa State. So in the wrestlebacks, after George lost in the semis, we almost got revenge on DeJulius from Ohio State, who's a great wrestler and a great kid, actually. Really nice kid. George was up by 3 with 30 seconds left and lost that match. So that was a heartbreaker for us. But what we talked about with our team, with Georgie in particular, was you wrestled your heart out. I mean, a couple of these things were tactical mistakes or a couple of little things, errors he made here and there, but heart was there, hand fight was there, effort was there. He's going to be there in the end. I mean, he's a guy, I think if we didn't already know this and everybody was worried about George, I mean, after seeing him compete at that tournament, there's not a guy in the country that he can't beat. So excited for George. Joe Spisak also had a great tournament and placed out at Vegas, and I forget how many matches he had, 6 or 7, but gosh, just did a great job. I mean, made it to the quarterfinals relatively easily. And the quarterfinal match, he lost to Anthony Ashton, who's a total stud from Rutgers, a number 1 recruit in the country coming out of high school. Redshirted for them last year, and as a redshirt freshman was the 5 seed, and Joe was the 4 seed. They met. It was a 9-8 match or a 9-7 match. Joe lost. Joe comes back, beats Fisher from Michigan to place. Fisher, oh, by the way, beat Gray from Cornell, who's ranked ahead of Joe. Joe knocks him off. Ends up going back and beating another nationally ranked guy for 7th and 8th. So just a really good day. And again, the competition to compete in such a way component, the way that Joe wrestled. I mean, he lost to Ashton. The first words out of Coach Lean's mouth when he came off the mat was like, that's a way to compete. Took him off guard because he's like, I just lost, Coach. He's like, it's not about the win or the loss. It's about the way you competed, and you competed. So really happy for Joe's progress right now in his development. Skipping ahead, 65, Nick Solzer won it. He beat the 18th ranked guy, the 13th ranked guy, the 7th ranked guy. He did phenomenal, and then in the finals won against a really funky wrestler who, is really hard to wrestle. You got to give that guy a lot of credit, from Indiana, and was able to come out on top with I believe it was 4-2 was the win. So Nick right now stands undefeated heading into the next half of the year, which is going to be a tough half. So he's looking good. Blaze Butler, once again, Blaze just blows everybody's mind. He beats the number 1 ranked wrestler in the country. He beat 2 nationally ranked guys just to get to that guy. Then he beats the number 1 ranked guy from Minnesota. And it wasn't even that he won. It was the way he won. He was down 6-2, comes all the way back to send it in overtime in the last seconds, and takes the young man down in overtime. And everybody went postal. You can see a picture of everybody yelling, and Martin Butler, his dad, yelling with his arm up in the air in the stands on Flow Wrestling, their website. So just so excited for Blaze Butler. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He can be a national title contender, and so just so excited about that. And there was a lot of other good things. A lot of other good things came out of the tournament. One of note was Colin Campbell went 3-2, won 3 matches at heavyweight, which we thought was very impressive. Lost in overtime to the 10th ranked guy in the country on his own shot. So things like that were plentiful out there. So that's why we do that trip. That's why we spend the money. That's why I look this way, because we're red-eyeing it back, and all the other things we go through, it's worth it for the competition. So we've got Bucknell, a very tough team, up next in a dual meet on December 20th in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. And then we rest a little bit for break, and then we have the Southern Scuffle. We'll be in touch soon.